considering the 6 degrees of separation, there is a strong chance that many of us are connected to someone who has used or abused drugs before, whether you know it or not. There are also those of us who have had a closer relationship with someone who either currently struggles with the disease or has a past. Parents, siblings, spouses, and close friends. Drug addiction affects them one and all. Heroin and opiate addiction has become an epidemic in the United States. More and more Americans are battling it every day. This addiction is killing people in record numbers. Across the country, there is currently no end in sight. I watched my mother struggle with it for years, and I've seen it affect other members of my family as well. My brother-in-law did not fall into what some might think of when they hear the term drug addict. He lost his battle with the disease 3 months ago at the age of 21. There are numerous statistics in existence that show that heroin and opiate addiction is affecting more people every year. Over the last 15 years, the number of deaths resulting from heroin and opiate overdoses has seen a sharp rise. Information provided by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or the NIDA, shows that heroin-related deaths have become a growing concern, particularly in recent years. From 2010 to 2014, the number of overdose deaths related to heroin saw its biggest spike, shooting from approximately 2,000 in 2010 to nearly 12,000 in 2014. Heroin-related deaths have spiked amongst men in particular, with the biggest spike being in the last 5 years. During the same time period, from 2010 to 2014, the number of male heroin-related deaths quadrupled from 2,000 to 8,000. On the opposite end of the gender spectrum, it has been noted that women are more likely to die from prescription opiate-related overdose than they are from heroin. Research has stated that this trend among women is due to their higher rates of frequent pain, resulting in them being prescribed these opiates on a more frequent basis than men. Overall, heroin and opiates accounted for 61% of drug overdose deaths in 2014 and is the leading cause of accidental death in the United States. It is a common misconception that adults, particularly people ranging from 25 to 40, are the only ones struggling with heroin and opiate addiction. This is becoming more and more untrue every year as the number of people among the adolescent population struggle with addiction as it continues to grow. In 2014, the last year this data was available, 467,000 adolescents willingly admitted to using at least prescription opiate painkillers in the non-medical fashion, with roughly a quarter of these individuals further admitting that it is likely that they have an addiction as well. The heroin problem is much smaller amongst adolescents in comparison, most likely due to youthful fear of needles and IV injection. Only 28,000 adolescents admitted they have used heroin within the year, and 18,000 of those admitted that they might have an addiction to the substance. These statistics help show that the image of the stereotypical heroin or opiate addict probably doesn't fit into one that most people think of when they hear the term drug addict. Ask yourself this question: what do you think of when you hear the term drug addict? More often than not, you probably imagine someone who is homeless, unkempt, maybe someone you see begging for change while sitting on the sidewalk. What might surprise you is that 91% of heroin users are white and have an average age of 23, and a large percentage of them come from the middle class background. Like so many others, my brother-in-law fell into this category. He was a white male from a loving middle class family and grew up in a semi-rural community. He died from a heroin overdose only 3 months ago at the age of 21. Another common misconception is that heroin is something that, for the most part, only large cities struggle with. But the epidemic has begun to move into the more rural communities in our country as well. As of 2014, the last year any data regarding heroin and opiate overdose and abuse was available, there wasn't any hint of a decline in the current trend of heroin and opiate abuse. At its current rate, heroin and opiate addiction will continue to kill in record numbers across the country. The question must be asked, what can we, as a society, do to help combat this epidemic?